What's up, everybody? Hope you're all having a good day. A little bit different angle today for me. I'm actually sitting down. Pretty sure I broke my toe, so gonna be sitting for quite a few of the videos coming up. But I was actually browsing through just Rocket League news and all kind of stuff, and looking at the subreddit. And someone actually had a really good question that was, what is the best way to get into watching Rocket League Esports for someone who knows nothing about it? And while scrolling through the thread and looking at some of the comments, first thing, there's a lot of you that actually recommend my channel, which I really appreciate. Thank you for the kind words. There hasn't really been a good, like, hey, these are the things that you should do to make getting into Rocket League Esports a little bit easier. So today's video is going to be that. We're going to be giving you a bunch of resources, things that you can look into, certain things that if you maybe new to the game or primarily focus on the casual side, but want to get into the esport and start watching, where to kind of get your feet wet, how to get started, and the things you need to know. How's it going, everybody? Lawler here, your inside source for all things Rocket League. As I mentioned in the intro, this video is going to be about how to kind of get into the Rocket League esports scene. For people like myself that have been a part of it since 2015 when the game came out, it just becomes second nature, and I've dedicated my life to it pretty much. But for a lot of people that are coming in to the 10th season with RLCS X, it's a lot to take under. And I think that's the difficulty. I think there's going to be certain things that are more important than others. But at the end of the day, I think there is some tips and some things that will make it a little bit easier. Ultimately, I think the number one thing is finding someone you're a fan of, but I'm going to provide some resources, give you some ideas, and then it's more so up to the person. So this is going to be pretty general, pretty broad, but I do think there is some things that will help more than others. The first thing is, for those that are trying to get into it, try to determine why. I think the number one thing you should ask yourself is, what is it about the Rocket League esports scene that I want to get into? Am I trying to learn something? Am I trying to just see high level play? Do I want to like a sport, watch something at the highest level? What am I trying to get out of the esport? Because there's a lot of people that start watching it, and it's really tough to tell you where to begin if you don't know the reason you're watching it in the first place. If it's just purely for forms of entertainment, all the better. You're just watching to enjoy the content for what it is. And there's going to be certain things that you gravitate towards, and that'll just happen naturally based upon your subjective tastes. The thing is with Rocket League, though, like I mentioned, is there is 10 seasons that have been going on. 1 through 9 were all different. There was different formats. There's a bunch of different things going on. And how much of that is actually important to right now, I don't know. I feel like initially out of the gate, there's a few things you should know about Rocket League Esports. Number one, how does it function? What's the format for right now? What are they playing for? All that kind of stuff. As well as who's involved. And those are pretty big asks, because the format isn't easy, because there's a lot of people coming into the esport for the very first time. And then there is also the side that there is so many teams and open qualifiers that are cycling through. How do you keep track of all the teams? Heck, I watch it for a living, and I still have a hard time keeping track of all the teams. So I'm going to try to provide some resources as well as some things that will just make it easier. I think it's actually a lot easier for a lot of new fans coming into this new system compared to the previous system, because in the past people would try to watch everything, and now I'm a firm believer of just watching the team you're a big fan of and just supporting them to the best of your ability. So let's actually talk about some resources. The very first one, as much as I am here or there on, is the subreddit. If you guys end up going to reddit.com/r/Rocket League Esports, there's a link that I will put, and everything I talk about is in the description down below. But they have on the right hand side a welcome to Rocket League RLEsports. If you're new, where to begin. And they've got a table of contents and a lot of really good sources about what is Rocket League Esports, how did it start, and just very general information. It doesn't go deep dive. It doesn't tell you all the nitty gritty, but it gets your feet wet. It's like, hey, these are the broadcasts. You can watch in North America and Europe, OCE and SAM. These are the typical schedules. This is the format. These are the teams. Here's some big matches if you want to get invested. And here's a bunch of resources if you want to go further into the specifics of the game, whether you want to follow along about the community on Twitter, or if you want to have an app that tells you when matches are happening, if you want to follow the collegiate system or the pro scene. There's a lot of different little things that post really breaks down. That's where I usually recommend starting, because it is curated quite well and it gives you a little bit of everything. Like, you look at the very beginning and it's like, hey, this is what it is. This is the general format. And depending on this is going to vary. Some people are visual learners. Some people can just read text and they're fine. I personally am a visual learner. My recommendation, and I don't mean to shell it out, it's part of what I've made my YouTube channel about, but if you're trying to learn formats, if you're trying to learn what the heck's going on, My channel is a very good place for that. I try to do my best in providing video context in layman's terms on how to pay attention and keep up to date on everything, whether it be the tournaments that went down, whether it be the format that's going on, rule changes, roster swaps, all that kind of stuff. I feel this channel actually does a really good job of providing that, and I do want to thank the people in the subreddit for recommending it for that reason. One user in particular said, binge watch that channel and you're going to be good, and he links my YouTube channel. So 1_Simon, appreciate the love. If it's Simon, I think it is. Simon like throws a ton of support to all the commentators, so shout outs to you, Simon. But if you want to know about formats and all that kind of stuff, you can either do it through the visual way and through the blog post from Rocket League's website itself, which is the second recommendation, is RocketLeagueEsports.com. That is the official channel for Rocket League and the esports side. The website does a pretty poor job of updating things, but when it comes to new rules or new information or new posts or certain things coming out, that is the official channel. Alongside that, make sure you check out the Twitter. If you go to twitter.com and go to Rocket League Esports or RLEsports on there, another really good resource about finding up-to-date information. I try to do my best to follow up that information and put out videos for you as well. So if you don't want to go and look at all those resources, this channel is the place. When you subscribe to the Rocket League Esports subreddit, they send you two links. The one, the guide that I'm talking about. The second one is actually a guide specifically to the latest season, which is RLCS X. And it goes step by step about how the competition began, what the format is, how it works, the difference between RLCS X and regionals, as well as the grid and the prize pool split, who's in it, and all the information. And then they do have some learn more information. There's a lot of stuff to take in, and that may be too much for people. So again, depending on how invested you wanted to be, that's going to vary based upon your interest. But I feel like in situations like this, more is always better than less. The third one, which I think is probably the easiest and most important, is going to be Liquipedia. Liquipedia is put on by Team Liquid, and then they have, like Wikipedia, community created content to showcase when tournaments are, roster changes, who's doing what, basically everything Rocket League related. The official Rocket League Esports website does a horrible job with schedules and updating rosters and all that kind of stuff. Liquipedia is basically taking care of that. So Liquipedia is your best friend. It's basically what allows me to do my job. It'll tell you tournaments that have passed, ones that are ongoing, what is coming up, what level and what quality they are, whether they're, you know, top tier, A, B, C, lower tier, qualifiers, whatever it may be. They also break down all the formats, all the points, all the prize pools, all the players. Literally everything you need to know is pretty much on that website. Liquipedia is your best friend. The search option works really, really well. But the cool thing is on the front pages, it basically shows you the like big overall thing, which is the current RLCS season. And that's the number one thing you need to know. RLCS is the Premier League Rocket League Championship Series. That is what you want to follow along if you're trying to get into the pro scene. There is other various events that are sponsored by the developer as well as individuals, and that stuff will also appear on the other hand side. And you can filter it based upon S tier all the way down to show matches, depending on what you're looking for. But Liquipedia is your best resource. I would highly recommend bookmarking it immediately. It will be your best friend. As for the content side of things, there's actually a video that I enjoy a lot, and this gets into more of the investment side. You can have all the resources, you can have all the ability to watch and find stuff, but at the end of the day, the thing that's going to bring you back to Rocket League Esports is becoming a fan of it. And that can apply in a lot of different ways. I've actually put out tweets about this, asking people what makes you a fan of certain things, whether it be about the esport, the game itself, whether it be teams, individuals, and that's going to be down to each individual person. Are you a fan of Rocket League and you just want to see high-level gameplay? Or are you a fan of a certain team, a certain commentator, certain content types? What makes you a fan? And that is entirely up to you, and that's where the investment is going to come in. There's a lesser-known video that I don't know how many people saw it on the subreddit by a person by the name of Slightly Less Bad. They put out a video called RLCS, an Introduction to Rocket League Esports, and it's a 13-minute video that basically walks you through a lot of the big moments in Rocket League. It kind of instills that feeling of, okay, Rocket League Esports is pretty sick. There's a lot of history. And even though we don't have a massive timeline of all the history and everything that's going on, this is kind of a very, very simplistic look at, hey, Rocket League is pretty dope as an esport. Check out this video. So I think it's a really good place to start. I'll also link this down below, and maybe you will have some showing while I'm talking through this with some of the overlay. But Slightly Less Bad does a really good job of trying to provide context as to what makes Rocket League Esports so sweet. The difficulty is this video was put out last April, so it's almost a year old. So some of the stuff about the format and everything else is wrong, but the general presentation of it and what it's about is pretty spot on. There's a couple other resources that I was going to put in, like Wade and Pilkin has one about like why Rocket League Esports is awesome and stuff like that. But those are things I think you should make up for yourself. But the best thing you can do, honestly, is find a broadcast. If regionals are coming up this weekend for North America, Regional 2, you can find out if you're a fan of NA playstyle or EU playstyle. But I think it really stems down to what makes you a fan. What makes you want to continue to watch? And when you find that thing, really hold on to it and start to kind of go down the rabbit hole. Find out this team, this history, this player, you know, whatever it is. If you really like a certain player for the things they do, then you can start to look through their history. And it's not something you have to force yourself upon. Rocket League has obviously been around for 5 years as an esport. And the difficulty is trying to consume and know all that information, which is just unlikely. But as you watch more and more and you listen to the commentators and the broadcast team, and they tell you about storylines and stuff like that, you can become a fan of this and start to retain this information pretty quickly. It's just a lot. I will say the general IQ of the Rocket League scene has gotten better and better. Case in point, in Season 8, when we had Vitality versus Dignitas, people are applauding because of just really good defense. In the past, people would cheer for every single shot. They would get mad at commentators because they didn't hype up everything. But it's because the general public just didn't know when things were going to be happening or not. And that has changed a lot as people have become more educated about the game and have learned the game at a higher level. So you got to start somewhere. It's a lot to take in, but ultimately you just got to get your feet wet. My recommendations, again, check out those guides, pay attention to those, kind of read over the basics. I recommend watching that RLCS introduction video because it's really, really good. And it kind of instills that feeling of like, okay, Rocket League Esports, I definitely want to get invested in this. And try not to overwhelm yourself. There's a whole lot going on. And my recommendation as well, and it's a little bit of a sellout moment, is subscribe to this channel. First and foremost, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you share it with your friends. But second thing is hitting subscribe and turning on notifications. I try to do my best to provide content to help you guys stay up to date on things. There is a lot of Rocket League, and it is nice for a lot of people, as they've mentioned in the comments, being able to just sit down and eat breakfast and get everything you need to know that just happened in 10 minutes a day. It keeps you educated, and I try to remain as unbiased as possible. I try to provide my own feedback and provide insight based upon being a former commentator of the RLCS, as well as somebody who's been a part of this community since the very first day, not including the predecessor game, SART BC, which is a conversation for an entirely different time. But learning more and more about this game is going to come in time, and it's not something that you should have to dive headfirst into, but some things to pay attention to: the format, what season we're on, multiple regions that are playing, all that information you can find through the guides and everything else. And if that's still not enough, leave a comment down below. I'll do my best to respond to anybody. If there's a bunch of new people coming in, I stream daily. This week's a little bit weird because I've got a broken toe and I'm casting a bunch of events. And I get COVID vaccine, all that kind of stuff. But come over to our stream, twitch.tv/Lawler, link in the description down below. I will talk your ear off about any questions that you have. I love introducing people into this game and this esport. So don't be a stranger. Come hang out with us. And hopefully that helps. That is going to wrap it up for this video. Again, if you guys enjoy the content, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and I'll see you for the next video. Peace.